Here on the Car Culture channel, we like reviewing lots of Toyotas for whatever reason. But this time, after all these years of doing the Toyota Aygo, the Celica, the MR2, we have the king of them all. And here it is, one of my all-time favourite JDM cars. This does not need any introduction. Anyone who's heard of cars will have heard of the Toyota Supra. It's so iconic in many ways. Now, one thing to note is pretty much a standard car, apart from a few visual modifications. This is also actually naturally aspirated as well, which is quite rare in the JDM scene. So it's not going to be as fast as all the other ones you see on YouTube and things. But it is still a Supra at heart. In terms of speed and power, this non-turbo version produces 220 horsepower, which, coupled that with the not-so-lightweight chassis, it's not that fast. So how does it feel to drive? Well, it's quite responsive for quite a classic car. It does feel quite heavy, obviously, because it is. The gearbox is really nice to change gear with. It's very similar to my Mazda, actually. And overall, it handles really well as well. I mentioned this car is quite heavy, but the Mark IV Supra was actually extensively lightened compared to the previous generation. The use of aluminium for the hood and Targa top roof and crossmember and upper A-arms helped. And it was a total of 45 kilograms lighter than the previous model. And that's really impressive. The interior, it's as you'd expect it to be for the 90s JDM style. It's got a very curvy and almost spaceship style dash and very retro looking dials. And as many of you know, it's all very driver oriented here because all the controls face the driver. In terms of standard features, of course, we've got the electric mirrors and electric windows. We've got heating and air conditioning, of course, and added radio system. And my favourite part about this interior as well is you have the option to turn down the front spoiler at the front of the car, which comes down at 60 miles an hour to give it more downforce, of course. And in terms of like storage space in this car, you've got 5 different storage compartments, which is actually quite good. You've got a couple over there, one here, a few things around here, and etc. It's really good. But obviously you can see the back, it's got seats, sort of. So if you do want to bring your child along with you, then you can. You can also see that this version is a manual, which is quite rare. And the designers at Toyota thought, yes, let's make more automatic versions because that's what people want. What are they thinking? I mean, why would you want an automatic version when you have a manual, a slick manual gearbox? I'd love to meet the person who thought that was a good idea, preferably with a gun. Now, another popular thing about this car is, of course, the rear wing here. Although it's not the most practical thing in the world, it does offer the car some downforce, and of course it makes it look very good as well. Fits in with that heavily retro style. Even though this doesn't have a turbo, this Supra, it still has that 2JZ sound, which is fabulous. Oh. So, what's the non-turbo Supra like overall? Well, it's still a Supra, just not as fast as people might expect it to be when they hear that word. For many, part of the twin-turbo Toyota Supra's attraction comes from the easily upgradable power output. 450 to 500 horsepower can be had out of the stock twin turbos, with a free-flowing intake and exhaust system, coupled with an aftermarket boost controller. Now, does this mean that the non-turbo version isn't worth it? Not really. I mean, it's still got the same looks as the turbo version, and even though it's not as fast, it still feels relatively the same to drive. I think if you want a much more dialed down version of the car that everyone expected to be when they hear the name, this is it. So there we are, that is the Mark IV Toyota Supra non-turbo. If you did enjoy this review, then make sure you subscribe to us on the Car Culture YouTube channel and follow us on all social medias to be updated on future videos. And we'll see you next time.